Well, hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight at our Connect group. By you sitting here in this room, you are literally participating in the mission and the vision that we have here at the Heart, and that is to connect people to the heart of God. My name is Dominic Insenius. I'm the leader here at the Heart, and you picked a great night to be at group tonight because we're going to dig into our last part of our Influence message series. And if you weren't there on Sunday, you missed a doozer of a message, but it's not too late. You can check it out on our podcast and hear what you missed. Our great friend Crystal Stotzenberger brought the heat, and she preached an amazing message on what it looks like to be available. And when you're available, how you can harness the influence that you have in your life for the good of the kingdom and for the good of those around you. So I want to get as quickly as we can into these questions, but if you haven't been able to watch or see or listen to any of the message series before today, what we have been talking about is what it looks like for the influence that people have in our life and the influence that we can have in others. And how can we look at what God has done in our life and use that? How can we look around us to see, are we doing what we can? Are we being there for people when they need us? And how can we take steps to do that? So wrapping up this message series with the concept of being available was the perfect way to end this. Now, we talked about a couple different scriptures on Sunday. One of them was in Matthew 14, and I'll have the scriptures up in a moment. I'd love for us to be able to read through some of these stories. They're going to help us dig into these questions today. And I want to say that even if you haven't been able to listen to the message, you can still participate in the conversation tonight, even if you weren't able to be there on Sunday. I want to encourage you to be brave and bold and jump into this discussion with us. So one of those scriptures was Matthew 14. Another one was in John 15. And it talks about, in Matthew, a little bit of a storm that the disciples are facing, that Jesus is with them in, and kind of talk through them that there. So I want to be able to read through this together and then dig into these questions. Okay, so the first question for tonight has to do with a little bit of a storm. I want to know if you can look at your life right now. What is a storm that is going on in your life that you want to stop? That maybe you've been praying for this storm to stop. So that this has to end, and it's just been frustrating you, and you're tired and you're exhausted. What is a storm in your life that you've been wanting to stop? And I want to dig in a little bit with this same question. Maybe a two-part question is, what would change if instead of wanting it to stop and praying for it to stop, you prayed for the courage you need to walk through this storm with God at your side? Instead of praying for God to stop the storm, what would it look like if you prayed for the courage you need in the middle of this storm? So let's take a few minutes. Let's read through those scriptures. Let's talk through this. Let's dig in and see what we can figure out together. All right, now the next question has to do with something else Crystal discussed on Sunday, and it had to do with our issues being our boundaries, our issues getting in the way of how God can use us, of how we can affect others. And another way to say it is our imperfections. Are we letting our imperfections keep us from being available to those around us? Keep us from being able to influence those in the best way possible. So what I want to ask you, and what I want you to dig into, is I want you to describe a time when you allowed your imperfections, your issues, to get in the way of being available to those around you. And maybe your imperfections or your issues, or fear that you carry, or shame that you carry around from your past, or guilt that you're struggling with, or you don't think you're great at something. When have you allowed those imperfections to keep you from being available to those around you? And I want to know, how did that affect you when those things kept you from doing that, and maybe how it affected those around you? So let's take a few minutes to dig into that together. Again, I want to encourage you to be brave and bold, because when you participate and you share your story, you share what's going on, you help all of us grow. So let's take a few minutes and dig into that together. All right, now this next question digs a little bit deeper into what we've been talking about tonight. And what I want to know is, why would being focused on your pain, on your hurt, cause you to miss out on what God wants to do in you and through you? That's one of the things that Crystal walked us through on Sunday is if we're too focused on the storm around us and we're too worried about us being beaten up, we can miss hearing what God wants to do in us and what God wants to do through us. So I want to know, in your opinion, why is being focused on that? Why being focused on pain and hurt? Why is that going to cause us to miss out on what God wants to do in us and through us? So let's take a few minutes, talk through that together. Now, the last question tonight has to do with applying this into our life. Because if we're just learning and getting smarter, then we're missing out on such a huge component of what God can do in us and through us. And that's by applying what we have learned into our life day to day and taking it with us. So what I want to know from you is today, tonight, this week, how are you going to be available for those around you? I don't know what it looks like for you. I don't know if what it's going to change in your life and what adjustments you're going to need to make, but I want to know, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to take to be available for those in your life, those that you care about, those that can be influenced by you? What are you going to do to be more available? So let's talk through that together. This is going to be the last question for tonight. So I'll leave you with this. I love you guys too much. Make sure you say thank you so much and give a high five to your Connect Group hosts, your Connect Group leaders. They take time out of their week to make a space where we can all connect with the heart of God. And I'll see you this Sunday, 9:30 and 11, when we start our brand new message series called Strings Attached. It is a perfect Sunday to invite new people because we're going to dig into this first message on the strings that we attach to going to church and how we can cut those strings and be able to live in freedom. So we'll see you this Sunday at 9:30 and 11. Love you guys.